You're listening to DraftKings Network.
Hi, I'm Ben Stiller from the Academy Awards snub movie Dodgeball. You know, this election is a lot like Dodgeball. Kamala Harris is the average Joe underdog, and no, this isn't a time for jokes. You know what? It's way too important. Donald Trump wants to terminate the Constitution. Project 2025 will give him nearly unlimited power. We can't let him get anywhere near the White House. So, vote for Kamala Harris. Yeah, see, that was better. The serious version was much better, right?
Paid for by Harris for President.
Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical. If you're a smoker or dipper looking to make a change, you really only need one reason to do it. But with Zyn nicotine pouches, you can find many. Zyn is America's #1 nicotine pouch. It's made with only 6 simple ingredients. There are lots of options when it comes to nicotine satisfaction, but there's only one Zyn. Learn more about Zyn and find your reason to make a change by registering online at Zyn.com.
Welcome to the Big Suey, presented by DraftKings,
Why are you listening to this show?
the podcast that seems very similar to the other Dan Le Batard podcast.
I'm sorry, I'm not going to apologize for that.
In fact, the only difference seems to be this imaging.
I have been tempted in restaurants just walking past tables to grab somebody's fries that if they're just there. That hasn't happened to you guys?
I've done it.
And now, here's the marching man to nowhere, Fat Face, and the habitual liar.
I don't know that in the history of this show we have ever had a better close to a segment than Greg Cody leering at a Sears catalog that had appeared on his television and hitting the ladies that he was ogling with va 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 voom. As him like reaching a space in erotica in his soul that I could have gone without ever seeing again.
It's a line by Jackie Gleason, I believe, in The Honeymooners.
Yeah. Is it when you're more intense than baby? Because usually in those settings you would say baby. Is va va voom
I didn't know that there was a higher state than baby. It's the first I'm learning of it. Seeing your father uncover his 14-year-old child looking at a Sears catalog, he went to an escalated place of arousal that makes me uncomfortable, and absolutely va 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 voom is higher than baby.
Well, I was matching what I said with the decor of the models wearing those swimsuits, because I feel like that was a picture of women in swimsuits from the 1950s. Okay, so I tried to pair it with a word from the 1950s, va 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 voom.
Okay.
Well done.
Thank you for
Thank you
doing
for that.
all of it.
I love the punctuation right there. There's a ba 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 boom.
Yes, it's all very. It's a disturbing side of him. I was hoping not to see post 70 years old.
Yeah, and you know it.
David Samson is with us now. Nothing Personal is his podcast. You can check out his show daily on YouTube at 8 a.m. Eastern. Welcome, David. I have some regrets about yesterday, but everyone around here is celebrating that Chris Cody is pro-porn and he got aggregated, and the only thing that matters is getting attention, especially if it's Chris Cody in the center of porn.
I think you wasted quite an opportunity to have to sit with the potential vice president. The election was a week from your interview, and you did not get to any questions. I guess you were interested in what his football acumen was. Maybe you were under a set of rules and guidelines of what you could do. But you're a journalist and you have a show. Yes, you're jocular and it's funny, and people can say, don't mix politics and sports. Well, guess what? We had an election in 7 days, and you just sat there and you allowed it to turn into a circus. I thought that it was a very poor performance, Dan, if I can say that to you.
Look at Chris Cody, hurt by that. Doesn't like that at all.
We did get to some, like he was talking about Project 25. Like with that,
and Joe Mauer. I mean,
we did get to some stuff.
Well, but no, this is one of the things that I think is fair criticism, and he is not alone in this. Is that I probably should have gone about 15% more serious and 15% less sports. He used us as his agenda to appear incredibly likable, at least because 10 minutes of the questions were silliness. But in my meager defense, David, what I would say to you is I'm straddling a very difficult line between a sports audience that does not want me to do any politics at all and trying to keep them entertained with range on content instead of just screaming about Trump all the time, which I do plenty of, and plenty of people hate me because I'm putting it in a sports show to begin with.
I don't think that it's about screaming rage at Trump or screaming love at Harris. I think it's about practical things that you could get not through sources you were right there able to get from a candidate in this election. Hey, I've been scared about next Tuesday. You talk about it all the time on the show. It's the apocalypse. Are you even going to come into work? Well, tell me, what is the plan Tuesday? What are you going to be doing Tuesday night or Wednesday or waiting for the election results? What is your party telling you is the agenda, is the plan? You could have gone that direction. You could have asked him what was going on, because there's a lot of people who'd like to know for one issue voters. Some people, the issue is taxes. Your audience may love sports, but you know what they love more than sports is money. So tell me, is it true that my audience is going to see $4,000 more in spending? Or is it true that all of the one issue Israel voters that you know are going Trump because you are not hard enough on what's going on in Gaza? There were 20 different ways you could have gone while allowing a Notre Dame question or a porn question if you wanted. Side note, National Geographic was always my jam because my mom let me read only that. But anyway, I do believe there were a lot of places you could have gone.
I want to play off one thing that David said, which was legit. And I want to ask Dan directly because I'm curious. I suspect that when you have as a guest Tim Walz, or when you have as a guest Doug Emhoff on South Beach Sessions, I would think there are prerequisites to those interviews.
There are not. They're not.
Okay, so you're not told to avoid anything?
Nothing.
Okay. That's informative. I did not know that.
What's informative about that?
I would have assumed that there would have been guidelines presented to you.
Fair assumption. Yeah.
Is it a fair assumption?
I think it is.
I think with someone of that magnitude, it's a fair assumption.
Wait a minute.
I also know you, and I know you wouldn't agree to it.
So wait a minute. You guys think that power arrives and gets to set all the terms? Like, I know that's where we're headed with these billionaires owning the newspapers and stuff at the Washington Post and the LA Times. But no, you're not supposed to make that trade in exchange for access. It cheapens you, and it creates a bias that's like wrong, that feels that. I know there's a new journalism now that doesn't adhere to these standards, but no, you do not agree to that interview if there are terms and conditions on that interview.
But I mean, in fairness, when Matt Barnes came on, he told us they did do that. So it's not unheard of, and there have been speculations that that's how some of these interviews have been granted.
And supposedly Joe Rogan turned down an interview with Kamala Harris because her team presented certain things that he couldn't agree with. I'm just talking about degrees. I don't mean you agree to anything that makes you uncomfortable. I mean, perhaps the other side comes in and says, hey, if you could, just avoid going here. You know,
Greg, you're asking a very fair question. I think we all know Dan well enough to know that others would do that. He would not. I think that's kind of what he's saying.
Sure.
I mean, Dan would never do that.
Okay.
It's also like for those who are not like particularly in the industry, there are interviews where people come up and they say, we'd like to avoid XYZ situation. And then you as the interviewer, as the host of the show or whatever, have to make a decision. Is it worth having this person on or not, just to avoid XYZ situation because they don't deem it to be relevant or they're trying to move past it or whatever it may be?
Dan, you're a journalist. Now, you are the conductor of a three-ring circus on a daily basis, and that is what is loved and beloved by your audience, and it's worked for 20 years. But you can certainly differentiate what yesterday was to what you normally do. And it seems like you were trying so hard to involve everyone and to make it just jocular enough that all of a sudden time ran out and there were myriad subjects that you had right at the tip of your tongue that just disappeared and can never come back now.
Again, it's a lame and meager attempt to defend myself against what I believe to be fair criticism that he's lobbing there. That interview was supposed to be 30 minutes long. It got cut short by 6 minutes. As an interview technique, you tend to put your harder stuff last because you're trying to open up a guest, which is part of what it is that we're doing by involving the group and talking sports. Get someone to relax a little bit so that they're not all politics buttoned up so you can get to the difficult question. This is excuse making, but there were questions left on the table that would have been harder than the ones that I asked, and that seems fair criticism to me. But Chris is happy because we got the dismount while saying goodbye awkwardly that he gets to be pro-porn publicly.
I also think David is forgetting 4 to 5 policy questions that were in there. Like, we did get to policy stuff.
David said there could have been more, that Dan had an opportunity. He's been talking about the election for quite some time now. It's a week away. He had the VP, the potential vice president.
Another thing, though, that goes...
Stop defending yourself, man. We did the show.
I'm defending myself because David Samson...
I don't care. I mean, when did he become our ombudsman? I mean, I don't care what David has to say. Nice with all due respect to David, okay? We did the show that we've been doing for 20 years. There was some serious, there was some sports, there was some laughter. We have been around for 20 years. Not many radio shows could say it. David, when you reach your 20th anniversary, tell Dan how to do an interview. I don't know.
And when I get, and that's fine, Stu, but when I'm getting calls at 4 a.m. and texts at 4 a.m. saying, hey, I didn't get to do this, or how did you think? Was this good? Was this not good? Because all Dan wants is to be told that everything's great all the time because he lives in the biggest echo chamber of all time. And I'm merely presenting to you the possibility that, wait a minute, there is a way to get better.
An echo chamber.
I mean, honestly, though, and if we're having an honest conversation, this exact predicament is why a lot of shows would just pass on the opportunity to have on a vice presidential or presidential candidate, because it is a tightrope that you have to walk. Are you going to actually use the opportunity to press them on hard issues? Are you going to have to, make it more of a show? Or are you just going to kind of play around with them and just talk sports and then get that reaction? Like, it's a difficult thing to balance, and you just kind of open yourself up for criticism regardless, because even if you would have just done strict policy as David is suggesting you do, then the fans of the show that don't want to hear it get mad. Like, it was, as bad as it sounds, it was a no-win situation.
I disagree. I don't think it was a no-win situation. I think Walz ends up winning. Chris gets his pro-porn face out there. Attention is the only thing that matters. And you get your little viral moments, but you don't end up changing anything. And
what were you going to change? You're still trying to defend this, and what were you going to change in 28 minutes with Tim Walz?
I am...
what were you going to change?
Stu, are you kidding me?
What? David.
Stu. That is the whole point of discourse.
David, he didn't ask
maybe be in a world where intelligent opinion and conversation can actually change somebody to listen and have an opinion that's different than what they have because they learned something new.
And so it's Dan's fault that no one's mind was changed yesterday? I mean, that's ridiculous. And how do you know no one's mind was changed?
Opportunity, Stu.
No,
it was a lost opportunity to make. Let's not pretend our audience are a bunch of adults.
Right.
I'm tired of that.
Okay. Well, who's saying that, by the way? And how do you know what's going to change somebody's mind? What topic is going to change somebody's mind? What question is going to change somebody's mind?
Because I know exactly what the polls are saying on various different topics. And polls. Dan had an opportunity with all of you to go through some of them.
David,
and I'm glad that it got to
He
porn.
asked about Hinchcliffe. He asked about Project 25. Like, he asked about other things, too. Like, you're acting like we didn't do any of that.
No, I'm acting like you could have done more. I am appreciative of what you did. I'm jealous of the opportunity you had. Dan, I assume, canvassed all of his famous smart friends about what to talk about, who to ask. I don't know if anyone in this room, or certainly I was not a part of that.
I was left out.
Me too.
Same.
Left out. But I assume, Dan, if I know you well, that is what you do when you are preparing. Now, you want to interview other people in the sports world. Let's call on Stu and Samson and see what kind of moronic questions we can get. But hey, we got the vice president.
I asked Brad Williams what I should ask.
All right. Here's a thought. If you have Tim Walz on your podcast, okay, anybody who wants to know about Tim Walz as far as issues and policy can find out. You can listen to his speeches. You can read his policy statement. You can watch him on the circuit. If you have him, I want to find out something different about him. Something that isn't politics. I found it interesting to hear him humanize himself by talking about college football, by talking about how he used to be a football coach, a high school football coach. He's a man of the people persona. He wants that, And that was appropriate, I thought, to the interview, was to give him a chance to talk about stuff that wasn't politics. I found it sort of refreshing.
And that's exactly what he wanted out of you, is he wanted the ability to be jocular and to be looked at as a man of the people. And I thought that you owed it to your audience to deliver something deeper than what you did, though I do acknowledge that you did touch on some stuff, but it gets masked when you're sort of hiding it in the circus and in the joke. And again, you can accuse me of being Mr. No Fun here. Like, I'm the same guy who says that the Mookie Betts guy should never get into a ballpark again.
Thank you.
But at the same time, you have one opportunity to do that, Dan, and the opportunity's gone now. You're not going to get him again before next Tuesday. And once he's VP, I don't know if he wins. If they win, I don't know that they'll be lining up to get back to this demographic.
Stugotz, these are the parts I think are fair criticism from David.
Okay.
Do better.
Mm-hmm.
Do better is fair when I'm watching what, admittedly, better entities like John Oliver and Jon Stewart are doing at the moment to meet the moment with the right combination of funny and serious that can actually change minds because it's well done. Because I've watched it over the last couple of days, and they're meeting a very difficult moment and a scary time for America. So do better is good advice. And one qualifier I would offer in my, again, meager defense, because it does feel like a meager defense, because I do believe this is fair criticism he's lobbing. Going into that interview, because he's got talking points, I know I might lose 20 minutes with him talking about abortion, even though it's a perfectly reasonable thing to ask him about, because he's got his talking points, and I'm not going to be able to actually get in and ask other questions on the really big stuff, on the stuff that everyone knows about and can get wherever it is that is elsewhere. But he ends up serving his needs by coming on and doing exactly what Samson said. His only job was to be likable. And he was that, and we helped him do it. And I can understand from there why Greg Cody arrives at, did Dan agree to how the questions was done? Because then you're making me a propaganda agent for the Democratic Party. Like, that's where I get compromised, and why some of this stuff is difficult to have range on, because I'm a little bit out of my depth with some of what's happening, because we are a sports show first. And I never imagined a scenario where I'd be interviewing somebody like this at a time when Likeable's going to win, when I'm watching what's happening in MSG. Like, we're calling the other party weird, and it's just fascists back and forth yelling at each other. And we're 10 days away from, like, if Trump loses, he's not going to actually concede the election. I didn't ask Walz about that. Like, what's next Thursday going to look like in America? I didn't even get to the question.
I'm just curious, David, what are some examples of questions you would have asked had you been in control of the interview?
Well, I started with the one that Dan just said, is what's going to be happening a week from today, Tuesday, and tomorrow and Thursday. And the other question I would have wanted to ask him is also what I asked him. I mean, I don't know if you were on your phone, because people in that seat tend to be on their phone during the show, but I was talking about what was going to happen with any of the policy issues and what is happening with the one issue voters. How are you dealing with that as a party and as a ticket? And the other thing I would want to ask him is, when he is the vice president, and this was my sort of half jocular in the way that you can be you and your show, you're going to move into, if you win, to Kamala Harris's house. Is there something that you think she will take with her to the White House that you would rather she had left? So you can talk about, we could learn. I bet the audience doesn't really know about what are the logistics of, like, she's moving from the VP house to the White House. He's moving in. Who's moving with him? Is he going to start a football league? Is there going to be maybe a 10-yard first down stuff in the White House backyard and the lawn? There's a way to do jocular, but there's also a way to make sure that we're getting educated so people can make decisions not based on the yelling and screaming of the two sides and the myriad political commercials we see on TV that everybody is seeing, because so much money is being spent that's not changing anybody's mind. And Dan is a journalist and smart enough to help people learn so they can make a decision based on actual.
That would have been a good question. Why does your party have 9 times as much dark money as the Republican Party? That would have been an excellent question to ask it.
I was going to say that the jocular question that came up was terrible, But on the bright side, at least it was unique because those other questions you mentioned are the same questions he gets asked every single interview. And he's got talking points, and he's just going to go into autopilot, blah, 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 blah. I'm with you, Stugotz. We do something here that's a little different. And our thing is about getting questions and getting answers that are different from what they get on every other show. It makes no, I get it. It's nice to say I asked a mature, grown-up question, but when it's the same question he's been trained to answer over and over again, I don't think you're getting anything of note or anything interesting or anything that will add to the conversation. You're just getting QB talk.
And so you got porn. Way to go.
Oh, well.
Yep. Look. Nobody else got that.
Yep.
Thoughts on the porn question?
I laughed.
There you go.
You're welcome.
Victory.
Yeah! We got him. We're back.
You're welcome, David.
It took us 24 minutes to get there.
We got him, Dano.
Yes, yes. Good work by us. We did important work, America. We changed things. We gave you the medicine of laughter right before anarchy and the apocalypse.
Hey folks, it's Mike Ryan. Basketball season is starting. In the pros, there's nothing like it. The celebrities, the sights, the sounds, the in-game atmosphere. You want to be in that building. And sometimes tickets are in demand. So what do? You go to the secondary market. Well, you know where I go. Game Time. For me, the top of the line when it comes to the secondary ticket marketplace. Game Time has this new exciting feature that I can't wait to tell you about. It's called Game Time Picks, and it makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. With Game Time Picks, it helps to make curation easier to save even more on sports, comedy, theater, and even more. And they've got all-in pricing. You hit a button, and there are no surprises at checkout. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code DAN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code DAN for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time.
Smirnoff knows there's no I in football. Football is a we thing, an experience that is best enjoyed together with good drinks and good people. Smirnoff is the world's #1 vodka and is an official vodka partner of the NFL. And this year, Smirnoff is giving fans in select areas of the country a chance to win the ultimate game day experience. From tickets to sideline passes and much more, just head to WeDoGameDays.com until November 15, 2024 to enter for your chance to win. That's WeDoGameDays.com. Smirnoff. We do game days.
Please drink responsibly. Smirnoff number 21 vodka, distilled from grain, 40% alcohol by volume. The Smirnoff Company, New York, New York. Please do not share with anyone under legal drinking age. No purchase necessary. 21 plus. Ends November 15, 2024. See rules at website for participating area and other important details. Sponsored by Diageo Americas Inc., New York, New York.
Ladies and gentlemen, the NBA is finally back. Thank goodness. And a new season means new ways to get into the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Who's draining threes from beyond the arc? Who's crashing the boards and getting rebounds? Get behind your favorite players and the prop bets you can make on DraftKings, the home of NBA player prop. New DraftKings customers bet just $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Every point counts with the DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code DAN, that's D-A-N, for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/bball.
Don Le Batard.
He called me on my own podcast. He called me full of shit, claiming that I'm faking interest in the solar eclipse.
Well,
and
you do this. You love to just get excited about everything.
Okay, Junior.
Stugotz.
I had to school you and explain to you.
He was going to take you to Augusta.
When I was 17 years old, Alan Sherry and I used to haunt the Bueller Planetarium.
This is the Don Le Batard Show with the Stugotz.
Speaking of which, David, ban those Yankee fans forever from baseball?
Crazy.
Yes.
Yeah, you did some misinformation on your show. The Yankees and MLB have not yet commented whether they will be allowed access to the game. And there is no scenario under which that they should be allowed to ever come back. We had a list, like a post office list at every entrance of Marlins Park of people who were not allowed in any ballpark around the country and people who weren't allowed specifically at Pro Player or Marlins Park. And now we are way past that because it's facial recognition technology, thanks to Jimmy Dolan. What they did is a lifetime ban. Hard stop, not even a question.
How many people did you ban from Marlins Park while you were team president? And what, I guess, were the offenses? Like, what would deem lifetime banishment from Marlins Park?
On the field, if you go on the field during a game, you're done. We had one person who mistreated another fan and a security worker, and they were banned, and we made it a permanent ban. But it was only, I'd say, a handful of people over my 18 years. Many people banned for a game, kicked out for, drunkenness and the usual stuff, for swearing. We had a few people with, Samson sucks, get out of here for the day. But generally not lifetime. You have to do something bad.
Did you have like a tribunal, like a kangaroo court, where you have like 3 people, maybe you put like the powdered wig on, and then you have them like present their case, like, I only want like a 5-game ban, and you're like, ooh, well, we're going to give you like a 12-game ban on this one, and then it's like a year or lifetime? Or you kind of just judgment decision, boom, I'm feeling...
No, it was it was me and the stadium operations guy, the two of us. We would need a unanimous vote of 2-0, and that's it. And if it were 1-1, but I was the one, I win.
David, this was a missed opportunity by you. You had the chance to say we had to ban almost 16,000 fans to excuse terrible attendance.
No, it was the fact that we couldn't put a winning team on the field.
Huh. But, David, what goes into this decision? Like, what did the Yankees do last night? Because they don't want to ban their fans. They don't. That's not what they want to do, but they might have to in this situation.
Yeah, you really do have to. This is inexcusable. You're showing the video, and what Tony said is so on point. His feet were dangling. And it's very, very possible that he could have hurt his wrist. If you look at what his glove hand was bent over like this, which if you're listening to this, you don't know what I'm doing, but picture your hand sort of palm up, and you could have a wrist that was sprained. There could have been an injury to Mookie Betts. And his comments after the game are irrelevant, where he's saying, I'm fine, it's good, I'm more focused on winning tonight's game. No, we're focused on the safety of players. You cannot have anybody think that they can touch a player. You are not a participant in the game. You are a fan watching the game. You're an audience member. As I said on Nothing Personal this morning, for crying out loud, you can't go onto a movie set that you see being filmed in your neighborhood and run up and hug Tom Cruise. You're going to get killed.
Yeah, but I would.
Dave, the feet are not off the ground. You and Tony are both wrong about that.
I said it'd be funny if he was, because he's a shorter guy.
They clearly standing. Well, I don't see his feet.
His feet are not off the ground. And you're overstating the potential for injury here. However, what it is that you're saying, what if I rebut you by saying they're on their side of the field? They're on, they can't behave that way, but you can't say that they're not allowed to touch the player if under other circumstances there are more gentle ways to do this. This is about the most egregious way you can do it, but there are stops between here and where it is that fan interference resides and lifetime bans from ballparks.
Yeah, you're allowed. If a player jumps into the stands, you're allowed. You can swat the glove away. You can go after the ball. You cannot grab the player. You can't. It's right there in the rules that are on the website, that are on the back of the ticket, what you can do, what you cannot do. When you check those terms and agreement, all that stuff that no one ever reads, but you have to pretend you scroll through. It started with him going, he was in play. And when you reach over, he didn't. This was not Moises Alou, folks. This was not Bartman. This was right there on top of the wall. The video shows that they then pulled his hand and glove in and then tried to forcibly separate the glove that was shut. It's unheard of. I was surrounded with Bobby Valentine and Will Middlebrooks last night. It's about 85 to 90 years of MLB experience, and none of us had seen anything like it.
Bobby V.
He has never seen anything like it, and
Thank you.
And he is in agreement with Greg Cody. There they are together, the old man peanut gallery, complaining about customers bothering the players.
David is 100% right with the perspective of someone who's been deep inside baseball. He has a valuable opinion on this. I think he's 100% right. I've never seen anything like that, as egregious as reaching into a glove and forcibly pulling out a ball while another fan holds your arm.
Pinstripes is a good friend. I've learned as I watched this like 1,000 times.
That's his boy.
The guy in the gray, clearly wrong by trying to open the glove, and this friend is like, yo, we've been boys a long time. Mookie, get your wrist out of here. What's your wrist doing here?
We ride together, we die together.
It's moving.
More egregious, a fan ripping a ball out of a glove or a guy showing up to the ballpark after he was suspended in a disguise.
Oh, wow.
Bobby Valentine.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, is that who that was? Oh, I'm sorry. I was just saying in general.
Point. A good pull by you. Samson, though, the part about this that I imagine has to bother you and Cody the most. You tell me if I'm wrong about this. Over the next 24 hours, these two fans are going to cash in as heroes. Like, you guys are going to be looked at as admonishing and castigating. New York is going to turn those two people into Hawk Tua and the next 24 hours of celebrity.
Those two men are at 14 minutes and counting, I suspect.
Yes, exactly. Thank God. And that 15 minutes can't pass too quickly. Those guys should be vilified. Other Yankee fans should be shaking their head going, no, dudes, we understand that you love the Yankees. You don't do that. You don't do that.
What do you mean?
Vilified.
Yankee fans are viewing them as the reason they won the game last night.
I know.
Oh, don't be ridiculous.
Which is ridiculous.
Yeah,
A
but
lot
they
of people
are. That's
are
what
saying
fans
it,
do,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
I think Aaron Judge said it.
Yeah, he did. Gave him a jolt.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's because Aaron Judge. Oh, come on.
Seriously, Aaron Judge, how about get a hit?
Exactly.
He did. After that,
he got a hit.
Yeah, finally. He's still batting about 155.
He woke up Judge. He woke up all of the Yankees, is what they're arguing. That this was a moment of great momentum. And if they come back and win the series, David, it will be because of this moment.
Correct.
It will not be 15 minutes of fame. It'll be an eternity of it.
If they come back and win the series, when we do the recap, this won't even come up on any show but
get out
this
of
one.
here. Get out of here.
Because you're going to say,
Be on the Tonight
that
Show.
play had nothing to do with the game. It had nothing to do with the win yesterday.
Yep.
Dave Roberts pitched his lowest leverage pitchers, saving his 4 best relievers for another day like today. Dave Roberts punted that game purposefully. Now, I would have walked Judge in the 8th inning. As a matter of fact, I was sitting there in the studio going 4 fingers saying, hey, do not give Judge anything positive to take away from this game, because he was looking like on the cusp of seeing the ball better, and he did see the ball better and got an RBI single.
Right.
So we're going to talk about a lot of things if they come back, and it's the comeback part 2. Shout out to Metalark, but it's not going to be these two dunces.
They'll be in the parade, David.
They will.
Yeah.
Everybody goes to the parade.
They'll be in it. No, they'll be in it.
Yeah.
In the
I
parade.
will bet you $1 right now.
I will take
I'll
that.
bet you $100.
$101.
I'll bet you
Settle
$100.
down, David.
Let's
Settle
not get
down.
crazy. Hold
The
on.
stakes are getting nuts.
$1.
$1.
Who bets $1?
Deal
$1.
accepted.
Please, no. Back off, Chris.
Right.
The Dukes
Things are out of control.
The Dukes. Thank you, Amin.
David, did your tribunal ever reward fans for good behavior? Like if a player goes into the stands and they catch the player, do they get any rewards, or is it just a one-way relationship?
We used to give a signed document to people who caught foul balls. It would be signed saying you caught an actual foul ball at a game. Marlins Man wanted to get certain accommodations. We loved him, but did not necessarily give him what he wanted. There were great fans. We had Pin Man. If you remember that, that's a very local thing we're mentioning.
So
here.
no.
So no, you've never heard of Pin Man?
Nothing good has ever been done for any fan.
A document.
Yeah, no, not so much. We're 2 World Series.
Right.
I guess that's good.
What did Marlins Man want? What were his demands?
That's a good question.
He was very much about access.
Huh.
Go on.
I remember on Jeter's introductory press conference, Marlins Man asked him to drive him around in his convertible along Ocean Drive, and they politely declined that request.
Wait a minute.
You don't know unless you ask. I mean,
Wait a minute. What kind of ridiculous request would this human being make because he's famous Marlins Man?
I mean, that was one of them.
That was one of them, but that was after my time. He's great. I mean, listen, he gave us so much free stuff. We never paid him at all. He actually had to buy tickets. He was a huge buyer on the secondary market to get those seats. And his job in his mind was just to represent the jersey that he loved. And we wanted to get our logo out there. And it became a great selling jersey. And funny story, we stopped wearing the orange hats because our owner was told by someone that they didn't like the way they looked. And I don't know if you guys remember. Now we're going back a few years. We used to have those orange caps.
Yeah.
And they were never worn after a short period of time in 2012. But those were really good selling jerseys and caps. When Marlins Park first opened, we were in the top 5 of all jersey sales back then because there was so much momentum. But that obviously all went into the crapper.
Samson, good talking to you. We've run out of time. We did this too long. We should get to a movie. Save it for next week.
Are we agreeing to this bet, $1?
It's too high a stakes, and I don't think any of us want any parts of Samson. Once he starts saying he will bet each of us $1, I think it's too rich for my blood, and we just need to. Chris Cody is in. Pro porn Chris Cody, pro corn Chris Cody is in. He will bet you
creamed.
$1 that I just want to understand the parameters of this giant bet.
They will not be in the parade on a float.
Well,
No,
it starts with the Yankees having to come back and win this World Series.
So the first
yes.
part of the dollar bet is that the Yankees have to come back from down 3-0, only the second team ever to do it. And if that happens, the public will indeed remember one of the greatest comebacks of all time was started by these two bozos who took an out that was already an out and just tried to injure a player and then got ejected. We are arguing whether those people will be on a parade float or not.
Yeah.
That's the bet. Yeah. All those things have to happen. They have to come back, win the series. Then there has to be a parade. And then those two dunces have to be on an actual float.
I'll take
chance.
it. Yeah.
Okay, you say 0 chance, but what I'm adding is stakes to this bet now. And also, David, if all of this happens, you have to get us on the John Henry party bus to go to a Marlins game next season. Your first we're going to force you to go to a Marlins game for the first time in forever, and we're going to do it with a bunch of listeners, and you're going to pay for the entire party.
$1. See ya.
I'm going to get him to agree to those terms.
No, you're not.
Yes, I am. Yes, I'm going to get him to agree to those terms because $1 is weak.
Dan, had you been planning that one for a while, or is that impromptu on the spot?
I want him to do something with our show and with our listeners that celebrates his return to Marlins Park. And he's been, for some reason, I haven't been able to get on the John Henry party bus with our listeners when I think it represents the greatest scam David Samson has ever run in his life in a history of wonderful business moves. Do you want to tell the story of why and how it is you own John Henry's bus?
I'd like people to go back and listen to the COVID show with Mike Ryan. Those were good shows. But to make a long story short, since we're long here, there is a bus that John Henry owned. It's like a tour bus, a rock star bus. And that's how he would get to the game every day from his house in Boca to pro player. And when we were buying the Marlins from John Henry back in 2002, the bus was a specific asset. He wanted 2 things to take with him to Boston. He wanted Josh Beckett and the bus. And we said no to Josh Beckett, obviously. And then we said no to the bus. And John Henry said, there's no deal. I'm not selling you the bus. And I said, well, then guess what? You're not going to get to buy the Red Sox because we're not buying the Marlins and no one else wants to. And I interrupted a wedding that he was at, and he yelled at me worse than I've ever been yelled at. Saying that I'm the biggest A-Rod for doing this to him, and I am doing something that will hurt him and his family, but he will give me the effing bus. So we had the bus all those years. Then Jeter's buying the team. Jeter in 2017, we give him a long list of all the things he's buying for $1.2 billion. And what was conspicuously missing from the list was the bus. We withheld the bus so Jeter would not get it. And Jeff Conine and I did a transaction where we bought the bus from Jeffrey Loria and the Marlins for a pittance. And so Jeter didn't get the bus, Henry didn't get the bus, but Conine and I got that bus right there.
That bus has seen better days.
It's a bit of an eyesore, that
Where
bus.
is the
like
bus?
In your front yard? Where do you park that
where
thing?
is it?
The bus is in a bus parking lot somewhere in Boynton Beach right now. And a shout out to the driver who's not doing great is Big John Anderson, who I bet everyone on this show knows as one of the institutions with the Dolphins and the Marlins and Huizinga and Marino and Jordan, etc. He was our bus driver and our security guy. And so it's a great story. But, man, there's a lot of hate of a lot of people toward me for that bus. But We Got the Effing Bus is actually the name of the company that Conan and I started that owns the bus. It's called WGTFB LLC. We Got the Effing Bus LLC.
Nothing Personal is the name of the podcast. He's got a lot of good stories. Thank you, David. Appreciate you spending
He's
the
so
time
proud of
with
himself
us.
for getting the bus.
I mean, it's pretty good. It's a
The
great.
Red Sox are worth $4.5 billion. You could buy another one.
I think Henry won. I mean,
Okay, I'm glad you guys re-legislated that for us there.
I mean, he got the Sox.
Yes, he did. He got the Sox. They won a World Series, and they had that comeback that you're
Someone
now
made a movie about them.
predicting that the Yankees are going to have. That movie's doing very well. That movie's getting a lot of critical acclaim, and also it's obviously very popular in whatever their rankings are at Netflix, even though they're guarded about their numbers.
I could talk about these two Yankees fans for 2 months.
Yep.
It's so interesting because they're so dumb, and they thought they were helping. I want to talk to those guys. Sullivan, get them on.
Oh, I'm sure nobody's going after them today.
I want to talk to the guy. Like, you thought if you got the ball out, you thought it wouldn't be a catch. Like, just so much going on.
And then after that, where do we go with them?
Mm-hmm.
There's not a lot there, but dumb heroes I'm willing to celebrate during these difficult times. Like
After that, we can ask them about porn or maybe where the country goes next Tuesday.
Or corn.
Yes, so you guys were really down on David Samson's criticism of our show there. You guys,
I was down on you for defending yourself and defending the show. You don't have to. I mean, we did a perfectly fine interview. It was our interview, not his.
You defended yourself meagerly, too. I didn't like the kid. You kept saying, my meager defense. How about stalwart defense, huh?
Strong defense.
And by the way, you know what the best defense is?
Offense. Thank you.
There you go. You should have attacked him.
But I believe you could do better is fine as criticism.
But he acted like you didn't ask any policy questions. That's what was annoying me. If we go back and listen, I want to go back and listen. I can write down, like, you asked 4 or 5 policy questions.
Okay, I don't want to.
And then we asked him what he wanted to ask, and he was just like, ask him about taxes. It was just like, what?
Enough.
Actually, the revelation is that the reason why David felt so emboldened is because he got an anonymous text/call from someone at 4 in the morning. I wonder who that was. Who's up at 4 in the morning?
What are you doing?
Howdy, loyal audience. It's Mike Ryan, and we're getting down to the nitty-gritty of football season, which means you've probably enjoyed more than a few tailgates, and right by your side at that tailgate is that beautiful white can of Miller Lite. From defending your favorite team after a bad loss to obsessively checking your fantasy lineups, football fandom is bigger than just Sundays. Miller Lite knows the passion that comes with rooting for your team, like the debate that sparked in 1975. Great taste versus less filling. So what's the best thing about the original light beer? Let it be both. It is for me. Miller Lite keeps it simple. Undebatable quality with great taste and only 96 calories. It's a beer that strips away everything that you don't need and holds on to what matters most. A light beer that actually tastes like beer. And the original light beer since 1975. Make your game time taste like Miller time. Tastes great and less filling. Let it be both. To get Miller Lite delivered right to your door, visit MillerLite.com/Dan, or you can find it pretty much anywhere that sells beer. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories per 12 ounces. Fewer calories and carbs than premium regular beer.